Hello, thank you for joining the SafetIbase presentation. My name is Dickenson. So to get started, what we'll run through today is SafetIbase, what it is, where it came from, and the challenges that it's addressing in the construction industry today. We'll run through the tools which fall under that SafetIbase umbrella and show you what they are and how you can use them to benefit your projects. To start with, I'll reiterate that SafetIbase is the product of a consortium of companies across the industry. So you can see the logos at the bottom there. There's Tideway and High Speed 2, which are two client organisations. You've got Bentley's logo there, Atkins, Mott's consultants, Balfour's, Costain, contractors, also the Association for Project Safety there. So it's really the product of a cross-section of the industry. And to introduce our team you'll be hearing from today, there's myself, Robin Dickenson, Samuel So, Nathan Norris, Martin Reboul and Clara Moreno. So as a group we've all been involved in SafetIbase for quite a long time. We're based within the Metros and Civils division at Mott's, and we've been working on rolling this out and developments to the code itself for quite a while. For the agenda, I'll be introducing SafetIbase, again going through those challenges, where it came from, what we've done to address those. Sam will take you through the database, the benefits of using it and how to actually install it on your project. Nathan will go through the SafetIbase code updates and show how organically it's really grown and improved over time based on real feedback feeding back into it from projects. Martin will go through the iTwin platform, how it all connects together and show really some of the really strong benefits to using SafetIbase. And Clara will wrap up with a bit more information on some of the next steps, as well as how you can get involved and start to roll out in your organisations on your projects. So, there are existing solutions out there for managing health and safety risk within construction projects. The options generally are some kind of proprietary technologies. They can be closed, they can be slow, they can be interoperable and generally expensive. As a result, the vast majority of projects that are in use across the industry are using Excel sheets to manage those registers of health and safety risk information. So what that means is you've got an Excel structure, it's disconnected, it's isolated from other aspects of the project. It's not easily transferred between parties. We have to send the whole sheet between different organisations on the project, and the structure can be inconsistent between projects. So our solution to that was to develop the first iteration of that SharePoint database on the Tideway East project. That worked successfully. It was a central location for the design team and the contractor to review the same data, eliminating the data transfer. It gave every hazard an audit trail, so we could see what had changed and why over time. And we wanted to take that learning and take it onto our next major project. But actually we found that was a lot more difficult than expected, because the database had been built for the project. It was tailored for that specific, the technicalities of that job, and wasn't general enough for us to be able to take that and move it on to the rest of our work. Also, with the release of PAS 1192 Part 6 and new guidance for connecting the registers to 3D models, there was another effort that we needed to address, really. And that's where SafetIbase comes in. It's a system that's cheap, it's mobile, it's flexible, and being based in a common database structure, it's easy to connect into other technology and other sources. It's cloud-based. Overall, it's simple in that there's no learning curve to transfer that to the next project, and it's a general, sensible enough data structure that it can be applied to a very broad range of projects. With those goals clear, we set out with support from the I3P to address these three objectives. We needed to make that database adaptable and accessible so it could be rolled out across many projects. We needed to link it to the 3D model environment, so suddenly we have a much more engaging interface to run our model review sessions and access and understand that information in the database. Thirdly, once we have our projects all working on a common data structure using that same SafetIbase database, we can then start to do some quite interesting things. So we can start to compare similar projects, comparing the data together, but we can also compare projects from right the way across industries and different areas of the construction industry, essentially, and start to look at trends and sharing best practice and other analytics which otherwise wouldn't have been possible. when the data hasn't been structured in a common way. Pleased to say those goals are now largely complete, and the suite of tools that now sit underneath the SafetIbase umbrella are as you see on screen. So you've got that database with the benefits that we'll touch on again later. You've got the Bentley iModel Hub, providing that two-way link to the database. You've also got integration with the Recursive VR platform and 3D Repo, which is another member of the consortium. The tools that we'll focus on are the SharePoint database and the iModel Hub element. So I'll hand over to Sam now, who will start to take you through the database.
SafetIbase is essentially a SharePoint-based database with a JavaScript front-end, which we believe is a much better option compared to the traditional way of working from Excel registers. SafetIbase would serve as a single source of truth for health and safety hazards and has a consistent structure that is compliant with PAS 1192-6, which is the BIM standard for health and safety. Changes made to each hazard are fully captured within an audit trail, ensuring all design decisions are captured in a transparent manner. Each hazard can also be pushed up along its own workflow, with user access controlled such that only people with the right authority can approve or reject a hazard. So these are some of the key benefits of SafetIbase. I will now go through a quick overview of how it actually works. As you can see here, SafetIbase is installed as part of a SharePoint site, so it can be rolled out as part of your project SharePoint area. This is how the SafetIbase landing page looks like, where you can see the overall picture of the hazards across all sites. You can also click this filter button to look at hazards that are relevant to your own role and company. Adding a hazard is really simple and easy. The idea is you can quickly add a hazard first, and then come back to mitigate later. Here I'm adding the hazard and risk description, and then assigning an initial risk score based on its severity and likelihood. I then assign this hazard to a specific site, structure, and stage in its life cycle. For this example, I'm creating hazard for a building in site number 3 that is relevant in the operation and maintenance stage. I then click Save, and as you can see at the top, hazard 61 and 62 have been created. I can now go and view the hazards within site 3 and further mitigate the hazard which I have just created. First of all, I need to assign the hazard to my company. Once assigned, only users from that company can further edit and mitigate the hazard, ensuring clear ownership of hazards. I now expand hazard 62, and as you can see here, these are the fields that which you can fill in for this hazard. This hazard has just been created and still requires mitigation, so I will now add in the designer's mitigation here. This is what I, as the designer, will be able to do to mitigate this hazard. As you can see, that changes the status of this hazard, and it is now within the assessment in progress state. I then further add the mitigation suggestion for the maintenance owner, which is what I would suggest the maintainer to do to avoid this hazard. And after that, I assign a residual risk score following my mitigation steps. As you can see, my mitigation step has reduced the risk. Once ready, I can then initiate review of this hazard by first adding in a comment here for the reviewer and then pushing it up along the workflow, which is visualized in the boxes on the top right corner here. Once a hazard has been pushed up, I can no longer edit the hazard unless this is pushed back by the reviewer. As mentioned before, SafetIbase captures your actions in an audit trail so that design decisions can be recorded for all to see. The workflow for each hazard varies depending on its type and life cycle stage. We can also assign Risk Assessment Method Statement, or RAMs, to each hazard, and that has its own workflow as well. As SafeTibase is an industry-wide initiative, the installation files are saved on GitHub and free for all to use. Installing this on your project is easy. All you need is PowerShell and owner access to your SharePoint site. You can configure SafeTibase to your project using Excel files within the installation pack. I will now hand this over to Nathan, who will expand more on how we are continuously developing SafeTibase and sharing this back to the industry.
After having finished developing the foundational version of SafeTibase, we moved into a testing cycle for 6 months. So it was rolled out across several projects, and over the course of the testing phase we gathered feedback from a wide range of users. We reviewed this feedback in detail to determine how the user experience could be improved and what additional features could be implemented into the core SafeTibase code hosted on GitHub. So these are some of the more important modifications we made. Upon testing SafeTibase on very large projects, we quickly realized that there were issues in storing such large quantities of information and accessing it in a timely manner. As such, we made changes to the back-end infrastructure and the user interface in order to provide an optimal experience for users. We also customized workflows for different types of hazards to streamline their mitigation and ensure standards were maintained. And finally, we added export to Excel functionality because it was requested so that teams could produce a snapshot of hazard information which could easily be delivered to the client. So we mentioned earlier that it was open source, and what this means is if your project has specific requirements, it is possible to add features to SafeTibase to create a more bespoke platform. Now, these modifications may then be incorporated into our main version of SafeTibase for the benefit of the industry as a whole. This essentially means SafeTibase will always be improving as it starts to be utilized across an increasing number of projects, each with potentially slightly different specifications.
One of the great things of having your hazards registered in SafeTibase is that it's now in a much more structured format, which is much more accessible. And with that, you're going to be able to do much more with the data about your hazards. And I'm just going to give you an example right now. So what you can actually do is, when you've got your project set up in SafeTibase, like the one I have here, if you've got an iModel for your project in the iModel hub, in Design Review, you can use one of the extensions, that's the SafeTibase extension, to just come in and load all your hazards into the iModel, and you'll see they'll just come up down here in the pane. You've got the list of all your hazards that you can look through, but really the interesting thing is all the hazards that have got coordinates attached to them, they're displayed with little hazard triangle here, and they're easily color-coded to indicate the severity of the hazards, and they've got different icons so that you can quickly pick out which ones are operations, construction, or maintenance risks. And so you can go, and not only can you just view where these are and see here a little summary of what those hazards are, but if you click on any one of them, it actually pops up SafeTibase, the usual SafeTibase interface for that hazard open, and you can see here that's the full interface, and I could go in and I can come in and modify the risk assessment, for instance, and yeah, or when I'll ask for a review. effectively use my iModel as the home place to go and add risks and review them and initiate a review in SafeTibase if I find it. Just go there and and just requested a peer review, and that's done there. I can also see, and that's just refreshed the site so that I got my updated updated hazards there. I can go in and actually add a new hazard, and I can just select anywhere in the model, and it pops up with the usual form to create a hazard. I've got it all over there, and I can go straight to the building, and I'll create just a construction risk. And see, it's created it, so I can close that. And after a few secs, see, that's just refreshed, and you can see that that's come up to 3, and I can see that I've got my new hazard number 63 down there. What I can also do is, if I've got over here, I can see the number of locations tagged against a hazard. So you might have one hazard that you want to put multiple pins, but you might also have hazards that you've created in SafeTibase and that you haven't located yet. It's quite easy to do in here, rather than just having to find the coordinates, copy them, and paste them into SafeTibase. You just come in here, click on Place New, and you get just that same simple marker, and you can choose to just pinpoint here, and that will place a new marker over here that wanted to refresh, and you just see that's just appeared there.
To close out this presentation, I'd like to highlight some of the most significant functionalities that we have described around SafeTibase. I will also provide some additional information in case you would like to get involved. SafeTibase provides a web interface which allows for effective collaboration amongst all roles covered inside the CDM regulations. Mott MacDonald have successfully implemented SafeTibase in several projects, the last being High Speed 2, one of the biggest projects that the UK have ever seen. Currently, it provides access to more than 900 users who are actively mitigating more than 8,000 hazards. In order to meet HS2 project requirements and enhance the user experience, the SafeTibase code has been updated. These changes include, for instance, customizing workflow functionality to the type of role involved as per CDM regulations, and improvement of drop-down and hazard screen visualization. Now that we have multiple projects building on health and safety in a consistent way, following data structure, the next step is to leverage the real benefit of this and look at the combined data set for the benefit of the industry. To close out this presentation, I'd like to highlight some of the most significant functionalities that we have described around SafeTibase. I will also provide some additional information in case you would like to get involved. Where can you find more information on SafeTibase and how to become involved with Mott MacDonald if you wish? A new website has been launched, link at the top of the screen. In the home page, you'll find a summary description of SafeTibase setup and the platform it is built upon, such as SharePoint, iModel Hub, and 3D Repo. You can access to further guidance material either from the top or the bottom of the website. Inside this section, you'll find a few videos describing the user interface, hazard creation and mitigation process, and SafeTibase interfaces with Model Hub and 3D Repo. Finally, please use the Contact Us section to request further information. The SafeTibase team from Mott MacDonald is happy to respond to any questions and provide professional advice to get SafeTibase implemented in your projects, no matter its type, size, or complexity. We are confident that the system will provide high value and facilitate the mitigation of hazards throughout the project life cycle. Thank you.